Good evening, everyone, and good afternoon to some. Welcome to tonight's webinar, Transitioning Students Using AAC Strategies to Promote Full Inclusion. My name is Sarah Blackstone, and I'm the facilitator for this webinar. Tonight's program is brought to you by the United States Society for AAC, or USAC, the voice of AAC. Thanks to the USAC Education Committee and to ISAC for making this webinar possible. We would also like to thank USAC's Advocacy Committee for their support of this webinar and the other extension of USAC's effort to highlight AAC Awareness Month. USAC is thrilled with the response to tonight's topic. We have over 70 people registered. We hope you will join USAC by going to www.usac.org/membership. We're just beginning our 2019 membership campaign, so it's time to renew or to join if you are not already a USAC member. Early registration for our webinars is just one of the many membership benefits, especially helpful when our webinars are very popular like this one. USAC includes a membership in ISAC, so you become part of our international community. Now for some logistics. Oh, let me tell you, for the first time, we have a 2-year membership option so that you can join for 2 years for the price of 2 years. Okay, on to some logistics. Your microphone will stay muted. You can answer questions by typing into the question box in the lower right hand of your screen. Questions will be answered as time allows in the last segment of the webinar, and we may group together some questions that are similar. We ask that you pose your questions in a general fashion rather than relate them to a specific individual. Questions that are not responded to, any questions that are not responded to during the webinar may be answered afterwards via email. For this webinar, we are offering ASHA CEUs. There will be a participant form and certificate of attendance found after the webinar. You must stay for the duration of the webinar, and we can tell, in order to receive credit. Registrants will also receive a follow-up email that provides a link to the archive, the CEU form, and some instructions. There's no charge for USAC members for ASHA CEUs. CEUs are $25 for non-members. At the conclusion of tonight's webinar, registrants will receive a follow-up email, so be on the lookout for that. Now, on to the good stuff. I'd like to introduce our speaker, Dr. Tracy Rackensberger. Tracy is on USAC's executive board and serves as the VP of Persons Who Use AAC and their family member. She holds a public service faculty position within the College of Family and Consumer Services at the Institute on Human Development and Disability at the University of Georgia. She has conducted a number of research studies and published scholarly works regarding transition and people with disabilities. Tracy has personally used AAC for over 35 years, and she has no financial or non-financial relationships to disclose relevant to the content of the webinar. The learning objectives for tonight's webinar are listed here, and Tracy will actually, I'm not going to read them because you probably have seen them, and also she'll be going over the goals, her goals for the webinar. I would like to point out the organizations and corporate members and institutional members that currently support USAC and thank them for their support. So without further ado, over to Tracy.
I am so happy to be here today to talk with you about transitioning students using AAC strategies to promote full inclusion. Again, my name is Dr. Tracy Rackensperger. So why are we here today? Society tends to have very low expectations of people who have difficulty communicating verbally. With the support of the K-12 personnel, I was able to reach my potential. This session will provide you with strategies to support students using AAC and living fully inclusive lives. Options ranging from supported to independent living, from inclusive post-secondary education, ISPE, to college degree programs, and from supported to customized employment will be discussed. Additionally, this session will engage participants to discover how using person-centered planning, strengths-based approaches, self-advocacy, self-determination building activities play significant roles in the lives of students using AAC. Transitioning from high school to adulthood is a critical time in the lives of students, including those who use or need augmentative and alternative communication. People who use AAC and their families have goals for life after high school. Many students needing AAC are deprived of the chance to partake in deficit general education. More than 95% of individuals with complex communication needs are unemployed. Many students are denied access to AAC because of various myths, including the common myth that AAC hinders speech development. Many adults with intellectual disabilities and complex communication live in group homes without AAC interventions. The outcomes for individuals who experience more significant forms of autism spectrum disorders are very poor. These individuals generally do not make use of speech and do not have employment skills. How do we prepare students with complex communication needs for life after high school? First, I would like to talk about three main post-school outcomes emphasizing inclusion. They are competitive employment, post-secondary education, and community living. When we talk about competitive employment for youth who use AAC, we often use an approach called customized employment. thousands of individuals who use AAC find customized employment a successful way to gain meaningful work, real wages, and a means to contribute to the workplace. Customized employment uses the practice of discovery to uncover an individual's strengths, interests, task contributions, and conditions of employment to create meaningful work in a customized fit. Rather than looking to work opportunities driven by the market, customized employment practices create employment that fulfills both the applicant with disabilities and the employer's needs. Often the customized work doesn't exist as complete job descriptions, but are created through practices like job carving, job creation, resource ownership, or a self-employment opportunity. Job carving involves either modifying one existing job or blending tasks from multiple jobs to form new positions. Job creation occurs when employers' unmet needs are matched with the skills of job seekers. Creating new jobs can be through the process of job carving or by creating totally new job descriptions. Resource ownership gives employment opportunities to those who possess equipment beneficial to employers. Job seekers may own equipment, machinery, or other items which are needed by employers, adding to their employers' businesses and profitability. As viable customized employment choice for individuals who use AAC. Self-employment involves business planning, designing support strategies, and promoting successful business ventures. These employment choices give job seekers and their supporters a number of possibilities for developing flexible and innovative strategies regarding work. So now let's talk about post-secondary education options for students who use AAC. There are four main options for post-secondary education. Vocational technical school, community college, and inclusive post-secondary education. A vocational technical school, community college, or college may not discriminate on the basis of disability. It must ensure that the programs it offers, including extracurricular activities, are accessible to students with disabilities. secondary schools can do this in a number of ways by providing architectural access, providing aids and services necessary for effective communication, and by modifying policies, practices, and procedures. Students who use AAC can take advantage of inclusive post-secondary education programs. Students in inclusive post-secondary education attend as non-credit audit students. Students take part in the same learning activities as their peers, such as assignments, practicums, exams, and study groups, and are supported to be successful by adapting and modifying materials and experiences as necessary. The individual student's vision and career goals drive services. The focus is on establishing a student-identified career goal. Through supported living arrangements, individuals, even those with complex communication needs, are able to live in their own homes, control their lives, and become part of their communities. Sometimes, when we think about transitioning students who use AAC, we, along with family members, may only consider group homes and day programs for individuals. In reality, given the right planning, students who use AAC can be actively participating in inclusive communities. We must plan of an inclusive society. The role of transition based on inclusive principles is vital. And we should consider a wide range of kinds of support, and we should consider a wide range of kinds of support. Finding out the strengths and abilities of students who use AAC will lead to creating supports promoting independence and productivity. Using disability-specific supports as well as natural supports must be considered based on high expectations and needs. Person-centered planning is an approach that is different from system-centered planning. It is a way of organizing around a person to help create a life that makes sense. It helps the person to create a vision for their life that is based on individual needs, not the needs of inflexible programs. It helps put supports and resources in place. Person-centered planning is the first step towards ensuring the delivery of person-centered supports. Person-centered planning is also important to use when the way people communicate with their behavior is clearer than the words that they use, or when what people say and what they mean are different. People can benefit from a communication chart. Tools like this ensure that people are understood. This is so important, especially for people who rely on others for support. Supporting the self-determination of individuals enables these individuals to become self-reliant and successful at the things important to them. Fostering self-determination in childhood assists students as they transition into adulthood. For example, letting children have a say in what communication device they use in school helps them to formulate decisions and teaches them that they will have later a lot of control over issues directly affecting them. Self-determination through problem solving becomes useful when children who use argumentative communication encounter barriers and challenges impeding success. There are two broad kinds of augmentative communication that can promote full inclusion of transitioning students using AAC, low-tech and high-tech. For those just beginning to understand or investigate AAC, low-tech options may be very attractive to try and explore with people who have difficulty communicating verbally. Low-tech devices are easy to learn, inexpensive, and makeable with common items. Picture boards are simple to make, easy-to-use interfaces for people who are unable to speak or see clearly. They are intended to augment the existing communication processes when persons are unable to speak and need to make simple requests. Persons use these boards to make simple requests. In an employment situation, a person can point to a picture of a stapler to say he'll staple it for you, or a filing cabinet to say do they need to be filed. Graphical communication boards have no oral technology requirements and utilize pictures, drawings, abstract symbols, and/or text as symbols. Examples are communication books, wallets, or vests that are referenced by pointing, eye gaze, touching, or scanning that is activated through switches or by indicating to someone else. When selecting AAC strategies, it is important to consider the individual's ability to recognize and understand speech, photos, line drawings, and/or text. For example, some people may understand that photographs represent an item, but may not understand that the printed word represents the same object. This is because words are more abstract than photographs or objects. For someone who does not understand text alone, objects, photographs, or line drawings can be used instead. Multiple picture pages and/or photographs can be bounded together to form communication books. People with little or no control of their hands may be able to use a laser pointer attached to their heads to select messages. High-tech methods include voice output devices, having either touch screens or static features. Static features are components that are fixed, such as the keyboard. Computer-based systems have features of a voice output device housed in a regular laptop. There are also dedicated synthesized speech generating systems, dedicated recorded speech systems, and hybrid systems. While high-tech AAC devices are often expensive and require evaluations, they offer an extraordinary level of independence to people. AAC is making it possible for many people with complex communication needs to succeed in employment. People with disabilities need to receive technology that enables them to perform the functions of a job. I use augmentative communication to communicate with people who have difficulty understanding my own natural speech. People who have known me for a while can understand my natural speech almost all the time. Strangers usually have no clue what I am saying unless I use augmentative communication. I have used these devices to interact with teachers, classmates, employers, co-workers, strangers, and friends. I am using augmentative communication more and more to give presentations, spread ideas, and help others who have developed mental disabilities. My family has always been encouraging of augmentative communication, and so was the educational system. I feel these factors are very important for a user of augmentative communication and were instrumental to my success as an individual. I have been included in my schools since I was in the 4th grade and have had a methodology of communicating all the way through my schooling. I was one of a small number of individuals introduced to augmentative communication at an extremely young age. I worked with SLPs to develop skills to use my augmentative communication device. They taught me how to use icon sequences and about icon representation. However, I worked with them on improving my verbal skills as well. People having high expectations of me, as well as staying person-centered, not system-centered, and my using natural generic supports as much as possible were and continue to be 3 of the most important things that shaped my life. As I said in my Speak Up blog post, my family had high expectations of me from the beginning and used natural generic supports as much as possible. technology is, hold on, of course you all know how technology is. Let me see why my communication device just stopped playing. Hold on, of course you all know how technology is. Let me see why my communication device just stopped playing. I am a public service faculty member at the University of Georgia, where I develop course content in our disability studies program and teach our introductory class. I also guest lecture in classes, write articles and grants, conduct trainings, complete research, and provide technical. Okay. So, I was trying to say that I live on my own and have a awesome career. Okay, so I was trying to say that I live on my own and have an awesome career. It's because of these three things that my life has a person with complete, complex, phone, communication needs is so. Success, it's because of mainly these three things that my life as a person with complex communication needs is so success. Thank you for coming today. All of my references are on the next slide. I will turn this back over to Sarah.
Thank you, Tracy. That was incredibly informative, and we have some really good questions that are very, very thoughtful and very deep, and I think reflect tremendously how informative your presentation is. I'm going to start with a question about literacy, and this is from Lisa, and she'd like to know when you were taught to read and write.
Well, that is a funny story, and I will keep this brief. Well, it is a funny story, and I will keep this brief.
Maybe we can get you to do a blog on it. Go ahead.
Yes.
All right.
Well, my SLP when I was. 3 years old. Was. Teaching me. Bliss. Symbols. And she couldn't figure out how I was. Learning them. So fast. Yes, well, my SLP when I was 3 years old was teaching me bliss symbols, and she couldn't figure out how I was learning them so fast. My father said, she's reading the words under them. My father said she's reading the words under them. My parents were both avid readers. So I am going, was, went, going to read. My parents were both avid readers, so I was going to read.
Got it. Okay, let's move on to another question. There were several questions or interest in the system-centered, person-centered comparison chart. And one of the questions is, can you provide tips for guiding parents to promote student-identified goals and interest rather than parent-driven goals and expectations? As I said, these questions are fairly deep and would require a whole lot of time and thought. So do you just, I think one of the questions we can use with that is, can we use that chart? Can people use that chart in their practices, and can family members use that chart to help them think about this?
Yes. My thing is people who wheelchair. Disabilities and their parents need to interview, understand that you can do anything you want, and people will say, no, no, you can't do that. My thing is people who have disabilities and their parents need to understand that you can do anything you want, and people will say, no, you can do that.
So we're going to have to wrap this up. I'm going to read, I think your presentation has generated some of the deepest questions we've had on our webinars, Tracy. I'm going to read some of these comments and questions. One of them is to please, this is Lisa again, would like to know your definition of an inclusive community, and perhaps we can make it so that you could email her that. Another question is, what are some of the natural supports you use to transition to adulthood so successfully? And then we have a comment from Katja Walter at the University of Rio de Janeiro. She says, your experience is very important for us to believe even more in people's potential. I am from Brazil, and here the myths with the AAC are very present, but we are trying to change this idea in showing our results for families. And many people have said, thank you. Your information and comments are thoughtful and helpful to those of us who don't depend on using AAC, but help those who do. So bravo, Tracy. Thank you very much for this informative hour. And thank you all for participating this evening. We are asking that you please complete an evaluation that you'll find at www.isaaconline.org, etc. There it is.
You're welcome.
Okay. This is great, Tracy. And I'm just trying to keep the time, us within our time frame here. We're especially interested in your suggestions for future topics. And to go back to the other one, we want to be able to provide you with CEUs, so get that form from the link on a USAC site and ISAC site. And please note that you need to send this in to Stephanie Meehan, who's the director of our education, before November 21st, so your CEUs can be processed. All right, now for those of you who might be going to the ASHA convention, next slide, in Boston later this month, we invite you to attend the USAC presentation about our efforts in supporting people who rely on AAC and their family members who are impacted by disasters. And that's bright and early Saturday morning. And for everybody, we hope you will be saving the date. We hope you will be joining USAC and save the date for 2020 in Mexico, which is sponsored by ISAC, co-chairs from Mexico, and USAC, August 3rd through August 6th. So thank you again for participating in this, I think, very important webinar. We look forward to your comments and to our next webinar. May everybody have a very happy Thanksgiving, safe Thanksgiving. Till next time. Franklin, do you have any final comments?
Just a big thank you to Tracy for a wonderful presentation this evening. And of course, Sarah, thanks to you as well. You did an amazing job. And yes, absolutely. We are all hard at work and looking forward to making Conference 2020 on Riviera Maya, Mexico, another huge success. So we hope everyone's going to put the dates in their calendar. Thanks.
Adios, everyone.